Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, where we look at the latest comics and other media featuring the Transformers. In this episode, we finish another story arc in Skybound Transformers comic with a review of Transformers issue number 18. Today is Friday, March 21st, 2025, and this is episode 434 of Transmissions Alt Mode.
Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, the podcast that is ready to shred. I'm your host, Charles, aka Big C, and I'm joined by the excellent Transmissions team. Jeremy, aka Echo.
Hey, how's it going? Let's talk Transformers.
As always, we start off the show by thanking our Donatreons, those lovely people who support us on Patreon and PayPal. Thank you all so much for contributing and keeping the show going. We really appreciate it. If you're not a Donatron and would like to become one, just go to transmissionspodcast.com/support, and that's where you can sign up. And you get lots of perks, including bonus content, like our bonus show, We Like Big Bots. It's available on our Patreon page. That's done by Darryl and Dr. Pants, showing off the biggest bots in their collection. Might be back at some point this year. We hope we'll get some new episodes when Darryl and Dr. Pants get a moment together. So we'll have to wait and see.
It's never going to happen. Completely pessimistic.
Oh. Wow. We changed modes in alt mode. Okay.
that way I'm going to be right on one of the shows.
Yeah, you got all the bases covered. That's right. But what is back right now is our Transformers Live Play RPG podcast, Empire of Rust. So we are back with regular episodes of Empire of Rust. Episode 131 came out this week, Journey to the Center of My Heart. And that is available right now at transmissionspodcast.com/rust. Of course, if you are a Donatron, you will get access to the early bonus version of episode 132 in just a couple of days next Monday. So you can continue the adventure right immediately, not having to wait another week for the next episode. So, that's just one of the perks of being a Donatron. And of course, we've still got our exclusive Skybound Transformers #1 comic that has artwork by EJ Sue for the cover. And you can order that at transmissionspodcast.com/comic. You can pick that up and we'll send that directly to you. And of course, we've still got our Toy Hacks promo code for the month of March. 15% off all your purchases at toyhacks.com. You can use that code PLAYBACK. That code PLAYBACK saves you 15% off all your orders at toyhacks.com. And that will be used through the month of March. So that will expire on March 31st. But until then, you can continue to use that code as many times as you like. Just cannot combine it with any other promo codes, and you cannot stack it with anything else, but you can use it with your RoboPoints. So, there you go. All right, let's get into the show. First, we got a little bit of comics news. All right, so Image has their Let's Talk Comics podcast, and this week or last week they had Robert Kirkman on to talk about all his long time in the comics industry. We haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but we know there's got to be something on the Energon universe in there, since he's recently spearheaded that whole Energon universe with Void Rivals and Skybound. So
yeah, there's something in the description here about or was it his long-term storytelling, but also creator ownership, and I'm betting Energon universe stuff comes into play there, because he was always like, I'm owning my stuff, and now he jumps into this deal with Hasbro. He doesn't own the characters. So it's going to be interesting to listen to that.
Yeah. So let's hope they discussed that in the podcast and they actually talked about that. So
yeah.
But you can take a listen. We'll have a link in the show notes, and Yeah, let us know what you thought. All right, let's move on to our comic review.
All right, and we are back to Transformers. And Darryl, you're gonna love this. Darryl. All right. Well, Daryl's not here, so we're talking about Transformers number 18 from Skybound. This is written by Daniel Warren Johnson, art by Jorge Corona, colors by Mike Spicer, letters by Russ Wooten, and the editor is Ben Abernathy. And so we haven't really gone over a lot of the covers lately, but I did want to point out the main cover here, the Daniel Warren Johnson cover. TF Wiki had a note that this cover was actually used or created for the pitch for Skybound to get the Energon universe or to get the Transformers license to create it. So, I mean, it's a pretty amazing image just all on its own, but you know, to be part of the pitch is really cool.
Interesting.
I'm surprised that it took this long for it to show up in the comic, but it matches, you know, what's going on on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, Starscream and the Combaticons are linked from way back in G1 with the classic episode Starscream's Brigade. So nice to have a little callback to that.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the summary here. The book starts on Cybertron, where Bluestreak, Warpath, and Blur are surrounded by a squad of Seekers and some other Decepticons. Hope is lost as a huge explosion hits their location, and Carnivek thinks that he'd prefer to feed on Bluestreak rather than blast him. Suddenly, Carnivek is run over by a black van. It transforms into Shredhead, and he has arrived and gets his Energon sword and quickly makes short work of all of the Decepticons by slicing off a Seeker's arm, and the other one is just split completely in two. Elita One finally arrives, and she agrees with Bluestreak that they might have just changed their fortunes in the war. On Earth, in the San Juan Islands, Arcee, Beachcomber, and Carly and Spike are with Ultra Magnus in a roughly constructed shelter. Ultra Magnus is talking with Arcee as they look up into space that the view from Earth is much like when they were on Cybertron before the war, but now he's unable to see the bright future that he had previously seen in the stars, and he just sees a vast dark entropy thanks to all the trauma from Shockwave's experiments. Arcee tries to convince him that they do have a future and that Shockwave is gone, but Ultra Magnus can't get past what has been done to him. Carly sympathizes with Magnus and tells how she and Spike both lost both their fathers, and their worlds have been completely shattered by the Decepticons. But Magnus and Carly, even though they're as different as beings can be, they have a shared pain that can bring them together. Magnus is unsure exactly how to respond when he hears something and immediately grabs his massive gun and aims into the forest. A group of special mission soldiers are in the forest and they get fired on by Magnus and return fire. Beachcomber immediately tries to protect Spike when a helicopter shows up, and Carly's hit by a dart and passes out. Arcee dives to try to save her, and Magnus is having a flashback to Shockwave, and he punches the helicopter out of the sky. Suddenly, they're surrounded by choppers that have all launched missiles at the group. Arcee has Carly in her hands and tells Beachcomber to get Spike out of there. Then the missiles hit, and Arcee is blown away from Carly, and as soldiers arrive, and they gather Carly's unconscious body, which she's okay other than the dart, and also recover Magnus's unconscious body as well. But the soldiers don't see Arcee in the wreckage. And she looks on in horror as these soldiers, who are sporting the logo of a highly trained special missions force, take her friends away. In Seattle, Jazz, Wheeljack, Trailbreaker, and Optimus are trying to save as many people as they can in the midst of a battle between Bruticus and Devastator that's destroying the city. From above, Starscream is firing on Devastator from inside Astrotrain. Soundwave ejects Rumble, who has only one arm from earlier battles, and he throws him at Astrotrain, shearing off one of his wings. Starscream calls for his Combaticons to come save him, and the Combiner starts climbing the skyscraper that Astrotrain crashed into. Soundwave orders Devastator to follow, and Devastator tells Bruticus that they should worry about himself, not Starscream. And then he grabs the Combaticons by Bruticus' neck and gives him a stone cold stunner off the top of the building onto the ground below. Now it's Starscream and Soundwave's battle. Starscream is called pathetic by Soundwave because he's not even mobile without the modifications by the humans. Enraged by this, Starscream rips off Soundwave's chest plate and he pulls out the body of Ravage inside and mocks Soundwave for his collection of tapes. A voice from nearby calls their names and gets the two to stop as Megatron has arrived on the scene. Blind, but using Laserbeak as his eyes and with only one arm, he silences Starscream with a single word, and Soundwave kneels before his leader. Megatron, seeing this and Ravage's body on the ground, he picks up Ravage, and after connecting something from his body, revives Ravage and praises him for being a good soldier and praises Soundwave for being a faithful servant. Starscream, seeing that this is probably a good time to exit, tells Astrotrain to get him away from there, but Astrotrain, seeing Megatron, refuses. Megatron, meanwhile, is looking out onto the city and tells Soundwave that they have much to do, while Optimus is looking up from the ground, and he orders a silent retreat as the shadow of Megatron looms over. To be continued. All right, so this, I feel like more happened in this book than the pages. Like when I went back to reread it, I got to the Arcee Ultra Magnus stuff and felt like there was still so much more comic. It felt like it was longer than it was. So that's really good. I really enjoyed this. I thought the Cybertron part was a little short, but it's just there's so much happening at the same time in different locations. But we just get that little taste, and then the bulk of the story is split between the Arcee Ultra Magnus stuff and the Decepticons. And we get our first G.I. Joe reference since the initial introduction of Duke back in the first issue, which is pretty cool. I'm sure a lot of people that like Darryl won't get the reference when they just show the guy's shoulder with the patch, but I'm pretty sure they have shown that in the G.I. Joe book already, and that is the logo for G.I. Joe. So, pretty cool that we're starting to get the connective tissue here. I'm looking to see in the G.I. Joe book when they're going to start being like, hey, Seattle and Washington State is just being destroyed by these massive robots. We need like an international force to come and help. It's kind of a major issue. But the characterization here has been great. With the Ultra Magnus stuff, it's really interesting seeing a Magnus that is just completely traumatized and unsure of himself, because we haven't really seen that before. He's always been the one that basically has it all together, except for the second half of the animated movie. But
yeah, I mean, it feels like Daniel Warren Johnson took that one line from the movie, "I can't deal with this now," and like expanded that to be a whole character trait.
But I mean, with basing it off of torture from Shockwave, I mean, it's a real solid base there, because we've seen in other media, Shockwave, like in the War for Cybertron game, or Fall of Cybertron, where he's experimenting on Grimlock, and you know, that's basically the mo of Shockwave. So really good base there. And then having Arcee just seeing, I mean, I'm assuming Beachcomber and Spike got away, but just seeing the people that are closest to her, being Ultra Magnus and Carly, being taken away by this force is just heart wrenching, really.
Yeah.
On the stuff in Seattle, I did like seeing that the Autobots are trying to save lives and just stay out of this. And I'm hoping that will be used in the future to show that, hey, there are different factions here. This one faction is trying to protect and is not like the others. But I feel like the introduction of Megatron was just done so well. And we get another wrestling reference with Daniel Warren Johnson's a huge wrestling fan. And I feel like the artwork of that page it's a 2-page spread with Devastator having Bruticus kind of over his shoulder like that. I mean, it just, if you don't know wrestling, you just think, okay, he's like throwing him off the building. But if you do, you're clearly it's either a Stone Cold Stunner or an RKO, one of the two. And I think it looks great. The art was just really good throughout the issue. I did forget at one point that Spike could walk again. I was like, wait, is this an era where he's walking? And I went back, and yeah, he has been starting to walk more. So it's just been a while. But yeah, I really enjoyed this issue from start to end. What was your thought?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. This is a really well done issue. I want to shout out some of the artwork here, like the image of when you have Optimus watching Bruticus and Devastator fall, and it's reflected in the window of the skyscraper above him.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that that was such a well staged shot there, and in the letters page that I think they call out that it was all Jorge Corona who designed that. So
Nice.
I thought that was really well done. I also really like the last page where you see Optimus saying Autobots retreat, and you see the shadow of Megatron and Laserbeak looming so large
Mm-hmm.
over them. I just thought that was really nicely
Yeah, I
done,
mean,
like showing how
the,
big Megatron is a threat.
yeah, and just kind of having those Autobots in the confined space on the street there just kind of adds to the tension from that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I really like that. And of course, the artwork of the continuing Devastator Bruticus fight is so good. The art of Rumble shredding through Astrotrain's wing, um, and the art with Shredhead in the beginning, I thought was really good too. I liked, one thing I thought was interesting at the beginning when Shredhead, kills those Decepticons so brutally, then you see you see Blue Streak saying by Primus's hand, and you think it looks like he's almost a little bit horrified rather than just happy to be saved. And then
Mm-hmm.
Elita One's like, "Yeah, I know he's really good. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna try his turn." So you think maybe Blue Streak isn't so on board with how brutal Shredhead is. I don't know. It looked
yeah,
interesting.
maybe. I mean, maybe that's what they need.
Yeah. And it was interesting to see that, like, the Decepticon characters they threw in there, they had Carnivac, which it looked like it was his design, like his most recent Legacy United design, or whatever it is now. I don't know what the line is now, but that the Carnivac that we just saw at Toy Fair a few weeks ago looks like that's what they used for this design here. So
Wouldn't that be
brand
Age of the
synergy.
Prime?
Yeah, Age of the Primes. You're right, Age of the Primes. So brand synergy,
Yeah,
getting a new toy design right in there. Um, yeah, I mean
yeah,
it's a yeah, and then seeing Ultra Magnus getting captured by GI Joe, that was interesting. I didn't see the GI Joe emblem on the on my read through. I mean, I read the wiki and then they mentioned it in the wiki, but I did not notice that when I did my read through. So
It's on
it's
the
interesting.
it's on the page right right after the missiles destroy the forest and you
Mhm.
see them getting Carly. The next panel is just a like one of them talking and it's just a picture of his shoulder.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I kind of like. I'm kind of. I don't think Carly would have survived without a scratch with all those bombs dropping on them. But whatever, it's comics.
Right. She has plot armor.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So things don't look good for the Autobots. It
No.
looks. I mean, I know Daniel Warren Johnson is wrapping up his story arcs with issue 24. So I wonder where things are going to go in these next 6 issues because the Autobots are really in a bad way. I mean, there's I don't think things will turn around in 6 issues, but I hope they can make a little bit progress. And then we've still got Thundercracker back at the Ark, so if the Autobots go back to the Ark, they're going to find an unwelcome guest there. So
Yeah. And then
I don't
we
know.
do have revival of, I mean, Ravage was dead,
Oh
and
yeah, that's
somehow
right.
Megatron revived him. They don't really explain how. And you would
Yeah,
think
that was
if
weird.
he has this power, why doesn't he use it on himself?
Hmm.
But I'm sure there'll be a reason. But also going back to the art, another 2-page spread in here was just the introduction of Megatron, and it looks fantastic with
Oh yeah.
um Soundwave and Starscream just looking on as Megatron just says enough, and it's just a really really great 2-page spread there.
Yep. Oh, and the one line I like when Starscream is ripping Ravage out of Soundwave's chest, he's like, "You're obsessed with your tape collection." I just like that line.
Yeah, it was a good line, but do they know what tapes are? I mean,
Yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, I mean, but this
it was
book
a line
has
for us.
been. Yeah, it's been fast and loose with
Yeah,
knowing it. They know English immediately when they're already like they as soon as they're revived, they're immediately speaking English. So I don't know. I mean, it's also, I mean, it's clearly not the 80s, so why was Soundwave rebuilt into a tape deck and
right.
his cassettes were all tapes? I mean, you know, whatever. I still like that line.
Yeah. But before we go here, we do have a special caller that wanted to give his 2 cents. So I think we have Darryl on the line here.
Man, how's it going? The 1 week that I'm away, well, it's going to be 2, but the week that I'm away, you guys decide to review the Transformers comic. The one comic that I want to review, you guys decide to do. This is crazy. I wanted to talk about this because it's just awesome. The art's great and the story's great. The fighting's fantastic. I have a couple nitpicky things that I wanted to mention. I know that the fan favorite character right now is what the hell is his name? That Carly's van guy,
Shredhead.
whatever his name is. Shred. That's right. He's Shred. And
Shredhead.
yeah. So anyway, he comes in like a bat out of hell and and takes care of everybody. I'm assuming he's got some incredible plot armor right now because he takes out a whole squadron. There's no rhyme or reason why he's incredibly strong. So he's just the new kid in town, and he's real special. So he's got some plot armor. The I've seen some talk online. Reddit was full of it this week with the Ultra Magnus story, because of obviously some army guys show up to take out Ultra Magnus, and a lot of people online were saying, "Oh my God, GI Joe finally showed up in the Transformers book." No, this is not GI Joe. It's some random, military organization. If it were GI Joe, the book would have made a much bigger deal about it. My concern about this particular plot point, I mean, I don't have PTSD, so I really can't, relate. But Ultra Magnus is taking on this a platoon of wannabe Joes, and punches a helicopter, and then the next thing we see is him getting carried off. Like, what happened here? Did they carpet bomb? Is this the thing? Is they carpet bomb the whole area and then he just kind of went limp?
That is exactly what they show.
Understand here. I'm assuming so, but you really don't see him go down. It's just this tiny little panel at the bottom of the page that you just kind of, you see. Anyway, so he's been taken again. So I assume they'll do extensive experiments on him for millennia, and then, he'll be even worse off. But the piece de resistance of this book is the Gestalt battle, and Devastator versus Bruticus. Awesome. I love it. These guys just go at it. They are destroying this city, whatever city it is, I don't remember. Some American city that, probably deserved it. But whatever. That's just me being, Canadian at the time of reading it. And and obviously, it's a great battle. It looks great. The panel that I really love out of this whole fight is Bruticus's head popping up over the top of the building with when Starscream's crashed down on the top. Kind of he's kind of come to Starscream's aid, and it's just great to see the scale. I love that scale. Bruticus is just massive, and Starscream's a mess right now with his little Joe vehicle legs. And then obviously Devastator catches up to him and just demolishes him. It's just fantastic. Them crashing down to the ground is fantastic. The art just makes it seem like this utter destruction. I don't know how anybody in the area is surviving any of this. It reminds me of what's been going on in Invincible this season. It's just absolute carnage, and I love it. The last bit of the issue is obviously the big reveal that Megatron has found them, but Megatron reveals some weird superpower that we didn't know he had. He can obviously just kind of fix Decepticons with a purple light coming out of his chest. I didn't know he could do that. It's a fun little gimmick he's got. So cool. But so I don't know if this is just, this is only to, if you can only do this with minicons, but, he's basically, if Soundwave wasn't loyal before, he is dedicated to him now with, by fixing Ravage. So, I like that a lot. And then obviously at the very end, Astrotrain, Starscream wants to get the hell out of there with Astrotrain, but Astrotrain seeing Megatron is he's got his sights set on a bigger target now. So, and I mean, at this point he could probably take him. Megatron's really not in the best condition, but whatever. The book's getting great. I fucking love this book. It's fantastic. Heads and tails above any other Energon Universe book right now. I don't even know what we're doing with those other books. This is the best. And I mean, I would review this book every week. Let's just do this book, the Transformers book, every single week. It's, who cares if we have to do it multiple times? It's the best book. So yeah. Anyway, that was basically all I wanted to say. This book is fantastic. I am in love with the direction it's going. More fighting, please. I really enjoy all the battles. The Autobots are not really gaining any ground, and I kind of like that. So yeah, let's keep it going. Talk to you later, boys.
All right.
All right. Well, I'm going to just show this one panel from our review copy. That is the patch. It is a star with 3 stripes coming out, and I haven't found. I haven't really had a chance to look very much, but you can see the same thing. Let me get where I can share this image from. The TF Wiki it's the cover of the Energon Universe 2024 special with Baroness, but you can see in the behind her is that same star. It's the G.I. Joe logo for that unit, the in-universe G.I. Joe logo. So, Darryl, you're wrong. They are Joes. And I'm sure you don't remember, the G.I. Joe book did mention another group of Joes with Flint and Lady J when they were, I mean, it was a casual thing when they were going over the file cards. This is likely that other group of G.I. Joes. So this is, we're probably not going to see a lot of the crossover yet in the Joe book until we can get past what they're going through currently. But we have another group of Joes here that can interact with Transformers. So
yeah, I mean, we talked about it extensively. Yeah, Darryl, it was just funny hearing Daryl's like, no, they're not Joes. They're not Joes.
Well,
yeah, they're Joes.
And then
they're Joes,
also,
Darryl.
the page before, you clearly see a ton of missiles coming at them. Yeah, you didn't see explicitly Ultra Magnus get blown up. He is in the vicinity. Everything else got blown up. So it's not unreasonable to assume that he is not conscious.
Yeah, my question for that whole sequence is why everyone else wasn't incinerated. Like Ultra Magnus, yeah, he was knocked out by all those bombs. But how did Arcee come out unscathed? How did Carly come out unscathed? How did I'm assuming Beachcomber and Spike made it out too, since we don't even see them. So
I'm assuming they drove off and stayed in front of it.
But yeah, I mean, I just think it was a big explosion. It seemed like it would have been difficult to get outside that radius, but but whatever. I mean, it's like I said, it's comics.
Yeah, we're nitpicking at this point. It was a great book. So that will be our review. If you have comments, go to transmissionspodcast.com/feedback and send us your voicemails and comments on this book and what you thought about it. Point out every other reason that Darryl was wrong in his comment.
All right. Well, let's move on to some convention news.
All right. So we've got some convention news, and first one is from TF Nation, their TFN MiniCon in Manchester. That is March 22nd, 2025. So coming up this weekend. It is at the Pendulum Hotel, Manchester, and Chris Carter has just been announced. He was a colorist in IDW's initial run from Devastation and some Spotlights and All Hell Megatron, and then he did some of their movie books. He's going to be joining James Roberts, Jack Lawrence, and Lee Sullivan at this show. So come and see them if you're in the area. And this looks like it's a fun single day show. So it's really cool. Next up, we have an announcement for TFCon Toronto. This is July 11th through 13th. And they've announced that Bumper Robinson is going to be there. the voice of Bumblebee, Blitzwing, and Blackout in Transformers Animated. So he's got all of the B characters there. He likes to stick with the B names, I guess. But he will be there. He's going to have a Q&A panel and autograph sessions. So check that out. And then TFCon Chicago has just opened its ticket sales. So if you're planning on going there, it's October 24th through 26th. And all of the tickets ticket info is on tfcon.com. So you can check that out. The premium weekend pass is $143.20. And then they have the regular weekend pass at $72.62. And you have, the single days, you have the customizing class add-on, which is $102. Prints, they have pins, all sorts of stuff. So if you're planning on going, you can get your ticket now. So that is all we got for convention news.
All right. Yeah. I actually, Bumper Robinson was at TFCon Baltimore last fall. So I got to meet him briefly.
Nice.
I remember. So in addition to his Transformers work, he was also a child actor in the 80s. And I remember him, he was on Night Court. He was also on A Different World. He played a college student on A Different World. So I just got to say hi to him and say, hey, I remember you on all that other stuff. So
nice.
But yeah, that was when my son was showing off his TFCon tier list. We had got to have a nice little chat with him. So
cool.
Yeah, cool to see that he's coming back to TFCon Toronto. That's nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all for convention news. Let's finish up the show with some feedback. All right, we have a message from Aaron Ichabod Drift on Discord. So thank you for writing in on Discord. And this is this is something for Darryl. Darryl, hopefully you're watching or listening and you'll enjoy this. Just listen to Alt Mode and I gotta back my dude Cybertronian Beast up a bit. I'm an American born in the 80s, and I've never had any real interest in G.I. Joe. It's not from being Canadian or out of any deep-seated hatred, just that it's always felt pretty cookie cutter / milquetoast / paint by number / insert other cliche saying storytelling for my personal taste. Even as a child watching syndicated reruns of the cartoon, it rarely held my attention. I'm sure the comics are better, but I've just never been interested or invested enough to bother. That said, I'm going to counter Prowlestator here and say I get some entertainment value out of Darryl's torment at having to read it. Sorry, buddy. So, yeah. So, it's kind of support for you, Darryl, but also enjoys watching you suffer. So, sorry. But, Darryl is going to be out next week, too. So, he is going to miss our G.I. Joe review for this month. So, I'm sure Darryl's happy about that. So you take the good with the bad. You missed the Transformers review, but you did get to send your thoughts. You can send your thoughts in for G.I. Joe next week, too, if you want.
He's
you
not
can do
read
that. Feel free, but you don't have to. But yeah, so that's it for this episode of Transmissions Alt Mode. So again, as always, we give a shout out to our Masterpiece Donatrons. These are the folks who continue to support the podcast at our highest level on Patreon, and that's why they get a mention in every episode. So thank you once again to John Forex Levingood and Steve C. You guys rock. And thank you to everyone out there who's watching and listening to the show. We really appreciate your support. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Later.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Transmissions. If you'd like to join the conversation, travel to our Discord channel at transmissionspodcast.com/Discord. Want some cool transmission swag? Feast your eyes on our transmissions gear at transmissionspodcast.com/shop. If you'd like to support our podcast, go to transmissionspodcast.com/support or tell your friends about our show. We'll see you next time.